Hi, Point of View listeners. We just wanted to take a minute to thank you for all of your support because this is, believe it or not, our 10th episode.
Yeah, just second that. Thank you guys so much. We honestly, I had never, the amount of listeners that we've had and the amount of success we've had, I never would have expected that when we started this podcast, but we're super, super grateful for anybody that's listened even once to this podcast. Thank you so much. Justin, how are you?
I am good. Are we gonna talk like this for the
No, I was
whole
just, I was
episode?
just,
Are you in
no.
uniform?
Oh,
Are
I'm
you in
in
are you in
uniform.
restaurant uniform?
Oh, I'm in uniform. Ain't she a
Look at
beaut?
that. That's beautiful. That's wonderful.
Yes. How are you?
Doing well. I am in a hotel room. You were in a hotel room last week. I'm in a
We
hotel room
were.
this
Where
week.
are you this weekend,
Look at us. We're
Mr.
just
World Traveler?
fulfilled with wanderlust.
Should we call you? Should we call you Mr. 305, Mr. Worldwide? Shout
No,
out
because
Pitbull.
I'm not in Miami.
Is that what that means?
305, I'm pretty sure, is the area code of Miami.
I see. I never knew.
You learn
Golly.
something new every day, and I'm glad that I can teach you about Pitbull.
When my joke just completely falls flat. Did
You
you
could
miss
call
that?
me. You could call me Mr. Worldwide, but I
I
mean,
said Dolly or whatever he says at the
Dale.
end. I don't know what that means.
It's a word in Spanish that I'm forgetting now, even though I've had
Does it mean like
extensive
hot or
Spanish
something?
education. No, I don't think so.
I don't know, because he's always like, "What better than blah 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 beautiful women?" And I'm like, this music is like really H.
According to a quick Google Translate, it says "go ahead."
Oh, so it's like let's go.
Probably.
Almost. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that for him.
But yeah, I'm in a hotel room. I'm in Baltimore. I'm making a quick weekend trip back to our alma mater to visit some people and also work for our former employer. So I am needed. I came into a space and I am needed in this space.
King of being needed in this space. Do you feel, the question is, does it feel weird being back?
Oh, absolutely. I was actually just texting with, Mary about how it was like, it's just weird being here. And like, because she came back and you came back for graduation. So I could probably talk to you about it. Like,
yes.
It's just weird being back in Baltimore.
Yes.
But not because I'm a student at Loyola. I'm kind of like visiting. So I kind of feel like I haven't been to campus yet, but I feel like I'm a fish out of water a little bit.
They're going to be like, oh my God, it's an old man approaching.
Yeah. Is that how you felt when you came back for graduation?
No, but that's how I felt when I got called old the other day. I think I already told you about it off air.
Refresh my memory.
I mean, I can say I didn't mean, I want to hear about Loyola and then I'll tell you about it.
Well, I haven't been there yet. I'm going after this. But yeah, I'm helping out with a big mass that they do. They're down a couple sacristans, and so they enlisted my help, and so I'm happy to be back. So thank you, Loyola, for inviting me back.
What I call a big fat amen, am I right? No. Anyways, so yeah, no, someone called me old at work. It was a server actually, because somebody was like, one of the servers got called 12. They were like, one of my customers just said I look 12. And I was like, at least they didn't call you old looking. Like, I'd rather be called old looking. And because like, obviously 12 is an exaggeration. Like, but she goes, well,
also,
yeah.
Side note, why is 12 always the age that like you say if someone looks young? But like, you know how if you're just talking about, oh my God, they look 12. You know,
yeah, I don't know
their age.
I don't know. But anyway, she goes, yeah, I was like, well, I'd rather them think I looked younger than old. Like, obviously not 12, but I'd rather think, because trust me, 12 was not a good look for me, at least. I'd rather, at least they didn't say you're old. Like, I'd rather not be called old. And she was like, well, yeah, but that's because of your age. And I was like, to be fair, the server was 18. So that was a little rough for me. I then walked away with my walker and Yeah.
All for the prop comedy
And my vitamins, yeah.
and your vitamins.
But yeah,
um,
alas.
what age would you like to stay at? Like if you could like reach an age, or if a previous age that you have already been, or your current age, like what age, if you could stay there, would you want to stay at? Like for me, I feel like early 20s is good.
Yes. Yes, that is what I was
I
saying.
like early 20s.
I was gonna say either like 20 or 22. I don't know why I'm skipping 21, but like 19 is too young. 23 is fine. I could stay at 23. I don't know what 24 is like yet. 25 is probably fine. Yeah, in my 20s. Maybe I wouldn't want to be 20. Maybe 20 is even like I would, because I didn't really like look forward to 21 because I wasn't like, oh, I can go to like it just like wasn't appealing to me. So
Yeah.
I guess 22, like 22.
I'm not gonna lie. I
Ooh.
liked my 21st birthday more so for the fact that in Massachusetts I went from a vertical license to a horizontal license. I think it looks better than because I was legal to drink.
Oh, absolutely. I'm
um,
sure you look phenomenal on your license, as
oh yeah,
everybody
my
does.
I actually am very proud of my license picture. I got to retake it too because like you know the whole real ID thing in the US where you have to have like the
Yes.
gold star on your.
Yes.
Yeah. So I got to retake my picture. I no longer had braces and a crooked smile like I did during my first
Mhm.
one.
I
Um,
was excited to do that too, honestly.
yeah,
I was
I
excited
just
to
think
get
it's a
my
good
picture.
picture.
Yeah.
Now, did you
I,
smile?
I did. I was like, I wore an outfit that I thought was nice. And I went from looking, I say 15 because I was 15 in my first
Same,
picture.
same.
It was my permit picture. They didn't take a new one when I got my actual license. So I
Right.
went from looking 15 to looking like I just got out of federal prison because
Oh,
because it's not a good picture at all. It's rough.
you have like a shadow like with your face, like on your face,
I
like you have
have like
like
one
facial
eye
hair
half
in, or
open, one eye. I think I've
oh,
showed you before.
you
Maybe
probably
not.
have.
It's rough.
I feel
So
like
if
it's
I'm
always a
looking for,
Go ahead.
no, you go.
I feel like it's always a privilege to see someone's license picture because I feel like people keep them like so closely guarded.
Oh, they do. Absolutely. And it's like you see a hot person, you're like, let me see your license. You're like, ha, you were ugly at one point of your life yesterday. No. What was I just gonna say? I was gonna say something, shoot.
My brother's passport picture is the funniest thing. So I think he has to get it renewed because when you're at like below a certain age, it's like every 5 years. But now, like for me, I think it's every 10 or something. But my
Okay.
brother took a passport picture and I don't want to say he looks like people can leave it up to their minds to know what he looks like, but he's got this hockey flow, which in my mind looks like a mullet, and he's wearing a like a tank top shirt that with the American flag on it and a gold
Why?
chain with a gold cross.
I feel like I've seen this picture. I'm not even kidding. Why
I don't know where
did
you would
he
have
like?
seen it.
I don't know. Is it on that like slideshow that you have at your like? You know
No,
the. I
you
I
might. Well,
know.
the outfit might be in the slideshow, but his
Okay. All right.
passport picture is definitely
Because I
not
feel
on.
like that's funny. It might also just be every last girl in America.
Yeah. I just think it's funny, like, because he's just got like it's an American passport with an American flag tank top with like I don't know. It's just a funny picture, and he doesn't smile in it, or right? I don't even know if you're allowed to smile in passport pictures, but it's just like a half one. Do you smile in pictures?
In pictures,
Yes.
I don't like my smile necessarily. Sometimes I do. So like I do like either like the smolder or like just like a soft smile. But I've been trying to like actually smile more in pictures. Um, because you know like the fake smile that people do that like you just look like you're like either in pain or taking a dump. Like you know exactly what I'm talking about that people do. I don't like mine. So like I try and like actually like really smile now and you know.
Pro tip about me, if you know me or if you see me, if I am not showing teeth and I'm smiling, it's a fake smile. Because I for some reason in my head that's what I do. Like if I'm actually happy and I'm smiling, you'll see my teeth. But if I'm like annoyed but just putting on a happy face, you'll just see like a grin with no, yeah, exactly, like a grin with no teeth. But I can't do it right now because I'm so happy to see you. But no, I'm just kidding. Well, I'm not kidding. I am happy to see you.
He's just kidding. All right. Nick has logged off the episode. I was almost late actually because I was sitting in the wrong lobby for like
The
3
wrong
minutes.
lobby. Aren't you at your house?
Yeah, no, I'm saying like the wrong Zoom lobby. I messaged you and I was like,
Zoom.
I'm in the waiting room. And you were like, are you in this one? I was like, rip, no. So yeah.
How are you?
I'm okay. Like I have had my mental health has been poor this week, in terms of OCD, but I'm doing the therapy that I'm supposed to and like the work that I'm supposed to and just hoping that it'll pay off. I had another full week at work. Ow, ow. And I don't know if anybody saw the story on Monday that was on Point of Dude's story, the golf, why can't I say it? The golf cart that I was living the dream in and the bet on it scene that I did from High School Musical 2. I really had to. Honestly, a listener sent in that request to do it, and I was like, High School Musical 2, you don't have to tell me twice. So yeah, I was at Lava Springs. If anybody gets that reference.
Is it that where they work in? I was gonna
Yeah.
say, is that a local golf course?
No, it's
Not
where Sharpay Evans feels most fabulous.
Absolutely.
So Nick, what fruit would you be if you're a fruit? No. I love that that's caught on though, but yeah, no. So overall, hanging in there. Going to wait tables tonight. Excited about that.
Have you decided what you're going to do if that couple comes back?
I don't know if I have the energy for them tonight.
Fair enough.
I might if so. Yeah, I have decided. Walk out.
Just turn in your apron.
Yeah. I always said that if I were to ever get fired for something that was like wrongful, like if I was wrongfully fired, my like dramatic exit would be to stick my apron in the soup. Take it off, put it in the soup and leave.
Is there just a big vat of soup in the back?
Not a big one, but that's like, yeah, it's like in a, you keep your, yes.
That would be if there was a giant vat of soup. I mean, this is sounding weird, but soup is like one of my, or if not my favorite food, because it can be so many different things and so many different foods can be put in a soup. So, I just, there's nothing like asking what the soup of the day is. I'm just saying.
Oh, you're one of those. No. When I get that, there's a type for everything. There's a type for everything. I want to eventually do an episode with one of the employees at the restaurant I work in. I want to just like dissect restaurant behavior for people that don't work in restaurants. I think it would be so funny, and I look forward to that one day. But that we have a long list of people that want to be on the show, so that really is one day and not someday soon.
Welcome to Point of View. I'm Justin.
I'm Nick.
And on today's show, Nick and I discuss Apple's latest product release event. We compare and contrast Nick's experience with iPhone and Apple in general with my experience with Androids, and zoom out to have a general conversation about operating system experiences with our different technologies like our computers and our phones.
Oh, Justin, let's talk about things from our
Point of View.
I was on Facebook.
I think that would be interesting. I want to know how many of them I could consider myself as.
No, I'm sure you're. I'm
Right
sure
now, I
you're.
know I'm a soup of the day person.
You're a soup of the day person, which we don't have right now, unfortunately.
I feel like that's like a great like. If I kind of want to use that as a compliment for someone, like
Hey,
like,
you
hey,
look like a soup of the day person.
Justin, you're a soup of the day person. I feel
You
like
look
I
like the
can't,
kind of guy that would ask for the soup of the day.
but like I feel like there's a way you can spin it that's like out of a restaurant context. Also, I don't know if you can hear how squeaky this chair is, but every time I move, it squeaks.
I thought that was like an antenna, when you like pull it back and it's like.
Yeah. No, this is get it over with. Just get all the squeaks out.
Exactly.
But I feel like there's a way that you could like spin that into a compliment.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think it means
Soup
that
of the
you're like a
day.
happy person. Like it's like, what's the soup of the day? Like
Yeah.
but also if it's busy in the restaurant, it also means you're an annoying person. So I mean, I'm kidding. You're because I think I've been to restaurants with you. You're very considerate.
I try to be. I try to be. I
You are.
try and here's a question. I mean, we can get into this in that episode with your colleague from the
Yes,
restaurant, but
my ball league.
do you like it when customers engage in conversation or do you not like it? And like, I'm gonna give you an example. So like, I feel like it's a very stereotypical thing for like grandfathers or like dads to do at
Mhm.
restaurants, to like get the name and to just get a whole story of the person waiting on them. My grandfather is just notorious for like flirting. But what do you think from the other side of it?
I I like when people are friendly. I like talking to them. Like obviously if it's slammed and they're like, I'll have like that's different. To reference SpongeBob, but it does happen. That is a very accurate SpongeBob moment, that like a very accurate restaurant moment in SpongeBob. But yeah, no, I like when people talk. Unless they're like being like, I don't like when they're like a wise guy or like, just like, I don't, if you're like snarky but like funny, but you're really only entertaining yourself, it's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna spit in your food. No, I don't actually do that.
Have you
Only
tried
when COVID isn't a thing.
have you tried most of your menu?
No.
No. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I mean, yeah, kind of.
that's something I wonder too, because if like someone at my table asks, "Oh, what would you recommend?"
I
I mean,
give
I
them
feel
my
like
honest answer.
your honest answer, but also it's going to be only like the few things that maybe you've tried off the menu.
Well, to be honest, I think the answer I just gave was probably a little false because
We
I mean,
know you've had the meatballs.
I have had the meatballs, which aren't even a thing. They're on the specials, so like they're not. But yeah, no, I have had a lot of it. I just don't like fish. So whenever people are like, "How are the fish and chips?" I'm like, people really like them, and it's like a signature thing here. But I don't like fish, so I think they look gross. I'm sure my manager loves that.
Do you say that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying people love them and they're really good, but I hate fish, so I think they look gross. But people love them and it's huge. The plate is massive.
Got a big fish.
But let's stop talking about my restaurant because I want to talk to hear more about how you're. Well, you already said how you're doing, but I don't want to
Ask me
dominate.
questions, Nick. Interview me. Go ahead. I can be our guest for the day.
In this corner, no. Okay, so Be Kind 21 is officially over by the time this episode comes out. So with that said, it's fight night. Just kidding. I was gonna say Android versus iPhone, but it's not. It's not. But I do want to talk about the newest Apple release and kind of what that's looked like and what they released and previous how it compares to previous releases and also Android because I know you're a green texter. Just to
Oh,
call you,
wow.
you've already called yourself
I
out, so I
know,
have.
but like, why you got to call me a green texter? Also, does it really matter what color
No,
your text is?
no, it
Really?
doesn't. It doesn't.
It does to
I have
some people,
wanted.
though. It
No,
does.
no. I mean, no. Uh, I'm kidding, of course, but I think it's interesting how Apple has done that because it really is a marketing strategy, but I mean, it's a brilliant one, but it's also an isolating one. So, as you've said, but no, I
It's
love you
exclusive.
and your
It's like
Android.
rude.
I love you and I love your Android. How about that?
you love my Android. Do
I
you though?
do.
Was that genuine?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. No, I love your honestly, I'm gonna give you my honest opinion.
Please do, and I'll give my honest opinion.
And I wanted to, yeah, no, I genuinely wanted to. I was totally kidding about it being fight night. I just thought it was like a fun gag because Be Kind 21 is over. But is it really over? Just because, let me shout out a future guest at Erica. Just because it's over doesn't mean it's really over. And if I think it over, maybe you'll, just kidding, that's a Katy Perry song. Only she's gonna get that. I
Went
think
right over my
Android.
head.
What?
That went right over my head. I know it's a Katy Perry song, but I
Yeah,
don't
well,
get
we
the
used to, when we were giving retreat, we were talking about retreats. We were manning the table one time, and people were like asking what the retreats were about, and we were so over being there for like 3 hours. So we started quote. We were like, "Well, you go on it for 4 days, but just because it's over doesn't like mean it's really over." And if I think it, like, we were just doing that, and
King of
Jefferson
manning
was
the
never
table.
welcoming me back. But I'll
be sure to
I
let them
think
know.
Android probably does more innovative, and I say this as an Apple stan. I think Android does more innovative things than Apple, honestly. They do them first, and I think especially is Android, I don't even know. Is Android and Microsoft, they're not the
Different things.
Well, didn't they merge now? Didn't they buy?
No. Android is a Google company.
Okay. Well, okay, so then in terms of like PCs and stuff, so like let's talk for a second like Windows and Apple, like a PC.
We're talking computers now?
Yeah, well, I just think of them as, because phones are mini computers, really. I think that Windows does and PC does more, are more powerful, honestly.
PCs?
I'm still an Apple person through and through, and I'll always go for a Mac over a PC, but I do think PCs are more powerful, especially when it comes to higher level work.
If we're talking about computers, and I don't know as much about the computer world, but I gotta be honest, I prefer PCs because it's what I learned like how to use a computer on, and like all of the shortcuts with the mouse pad on Macs, I can't stand. Like I can't navigate anything on a Mac. Like I look like a octogenarian, like trying to like use a laptop for the first time when I use a Mac. Octogenarian.
I think you just found a title for this episode. I look like an octogenarian. And then everybody can go look it up. I certainly will be. Yeah, well, just think about like even like Pages versus Microsoft Word. Which one? I feel like Pages is like good for the everyday person, but Microsoft Word is also good, I guess, for the everyday person because everybody uses it over Pages. But like, I don't know. I just think it's more.
I also realized I used the word wrong. It's octogenarian because it's someone in their 80s or 90s, but I said opto. So I guess someone who uses their eye. I don't know.
Even more so, I think we should just continue with
We're just gonna keep going.
Yeah. A couple of octogenarians walk into a pod, walk into a podcast. Am I right? But yeah. Exactly. So have you seen the new? I want to hear your thoughts. Have you seen any of them?
Well, so I didn't watch the event, but I watched like here's everything that happened in the event in like 15 minutes. And so I watched like kind of like the highlight reel of the event. So I know all of the things I know a lot of the things.
What were your thoughts? I want to hear it from somebody who has an Android and watched it. I think that would be interesting.
I think that I feel like right now, in terms of phone releases and device releases, there isn't a lot of huge upgrades. I don't think there was a huge upgrade from the 13 models to the iPhone 13 models from the 12 models.
Yeah. So basically it has a much more powerful camera. It's a little bit bigger too, the camera. The display is better. It has the fastest smartphone chip. And the battery is a lot bigger. And also the new color is really nice. But that's pretty much it for the
All
Pro.
According to Apple.
Yes.
This is from Apple's marketing material. So fastest smartphone chip is Apple's technology or Apple's terminology.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
41.62 a month for 24 months or $9.99 before trading.
I feel like the number of phones they're releasing. Did they release 4 last year too?
Yes, they did the 12 mini, the 12, the 12 Pro, and the 12 Pro Max.
Right. And so now it's 13 mini, 13 Pro, and 13 Pro Max.
Yeah.
So I feel like in that sense, it's not really a huge change. I feel like it was mostly software changes. I think to the iPads, they had it a little bit more, to the cameras. In terms of hardware, like they added more to the cameras, to some of the iPhone 13 models. The little like thing on top, what do they call that? The bezel, like the top bezel,
yes.
the cutout thing, the notch. The notch is a little bit smaller.
Yes.
But I think mostly the releases, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like it was mostly a software upgrade with iOS 15 coming out. And I think honestly, that's what I'm going to say with a lot of the Androids when we start talking about that.
I'm genuinely curious to hear about Android really, because I know nothing about like what they do for releases. Because Apple, I think, gets criticized a lot for they did nothing. Like when the
new phones
it
come
looks
out,
exactly the same. What are they going to do now? They're going to add another camera. If I see that stupid meme of the like 25 cameras on the back of an iPhone one more time, it's giving me trypophobia, people. I have trypophobia. I hate small circles next to each other.
Like sponges.
Yeah. I've actually gotten over it a lot. I used to really, I think I like.
My sister has that too.
Yeah. A lot of people do. If anybody looks up trypophobia, don't.
Terrible.
But it just makes my skin crawl, but it's gotten a lot better. You can't habituate to it. On to bigger and scarier things.
Yeah, I feel like in general, so you say like I feel like Android does more innovative things. I would say to that, my take on that is Android in a lot of ways does a lot of software and hardware things that are brand new, and then Apple takes it, or like waits a little bit longer and then kind of like takes their own way of doing it, and then in a way, I wouldn't say perfects it, but makes it functional. Because I feel like a lot of the times when an Android phone comes out and they have a new feature, it's not always that functional. A great example of that is a Google phone is now called the Pixel, and I'm actually waiting for the Pixel 6, which is supposed to come out, or they're supposed to have an event like early to mid-October, and I've been waiting for this phone for a while. But they used to be but the Google phone used to be the Nexus, and the Nexus was the first phone, if I'm not mistaken, that had what's now known as Face ID, or facial recognition to unlock. And it wasn't perfect, but that was one of the reasons why I got a Nexus, was because I thought that's so cool. I don't have to put a code in. I'm going to do that. And they had that even before they had a fingerprint scanner.
Oh, wow.
And so, but then I think Apple made Face ID, and just in general, both Android and Apple softwares have come a long way with that. But I think that's just an example of how Apple takes it and kind of made it more functional.
Yeah, honestly, my take on Apple, as somebody who like I said, like love my Apple Watch, love my phone, love my MacBook, haven't used my iPad in years. I think Apple's real strength is first marketing and user interface. It's so seamlessly easy. Like it's made for the tech dummy, I feel like anybody can use an iPhone, where maybe it's just because it's more like they're very common. Androids are also like it's this. People always like joke, it's like, oh, Apple whatever, but Android is the number 2, like in my opinion, like in terms of how many people have it. Like, and it's so interesting how we've gone from. Do you remember when phones, there were more than 2 big phones, or 3, I guess, because the Pixel?
What do you mean?
When everybody had a different phone, and
yeah.
That was wild. I wonder.
I want to add to what you said, though. Worldwide, Android sells more. In the US, iPhone sells more. And in certain countries. But worldwide, Android sells more. But that's kind of to be expected, because Android and again, when we talk about Android is just the OS, the operating system. It's the software. But in terms of phone, there's so many different companies that make Android phones because
I'm learning something new.
Well, I think you know that because like Android is the software, and you could have a Pixel, a Samsung, a OnePlus phone, a Huawei,
that
Xiaomi.
Makes sense then. What you're saying?
LG used to be RIP LG. They're no longer making phones, but
what?
LG was an Android phone. Yeah, they're out.
I heard Lady Gaga when you said that.
No, not Lady Gaga.
They are in her 911 music video though, like the LG company. That's really, that makes sense though. So it's the software. I never knew that. That is, I don't think, maybe I'm just living under a rock, but I think
maybe not a lot of people know that. And I'm being told by our producer that due to sanctions, Huawei no longer uses Android. That's something that I learned. But
hey, Huawei. Yeah. I don't know what Huawei is.
Huawei is a Chinese phone maker.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, I really just think it's interface and marketing. Apple's marketing is so seamless, and just like even right down to the blue versus green, you can call into question like the morality, but like they really made that a thing. And also just their like, I love the simplicity and the what's the right, like the cleanness of each ad. Like I distinctly remember, I don't remember, I think it was the iPhone 5. But their tagline was the best thing to happen to iPhone since iPhone. And I don't know. I just think that's really cool. Also, they congratulate you on your purchase at the store, which is like how pretentious. Like they're literally like, here's our product. Congratulations.
They definitely do have that for them. And I think we'll probably get into this when we talk about Android too, because I think it's about, with technology, it's now creating the ecosystem. And I feel like if you have an iPhone, it makes sense to have a Mac. It makes sense to get an iPad if you're looking at tablets. It makes sense to have AirPods. Technically you don't have to have, Apple headphones. You don't have to have a Mac if you have an iPhone. You don't have to have an iPad tablet if you have an iPhone. And vice versa, it goes the other way. But because of the ecosystem that they created, that's a huge strength in their corner. And why would you go anywhere else when, if you want a tablet, Apple has all these selections. You can just choose which iPad which best suits you.
Although yes, and to piggyback off of that, I learned that word from you, by the way. Not learn it, but like you say that, and I've started saying it. What an influencer!
Piggyback?
Yeah, what an influencer. I have heard a lot of Apple users say like, I love their, like I'll always pick an iPhone, but I prefer for my computers, like I'm not a big fan of the Macs. I've heard that, like that's more common, but I agree with you in terms of the release of the iPhone, what you were saying at the very beginning, how it didn't have, I was not impressed.
Oh, with the one that happened this past week with iPhone 13.
Yeah, and I rarely say that. I defend them to the grave when people are like, it's the same phone. And I'm like, it's not though. Like, it's a little upgrade. Like, but like, I don't know. I think that the 11 to the 12 was a huge upgrade just in terms of they changed the physique of the phone. Like the frame was different for the first time in a while. Like right even down to the square edges, which I know people were like, oh, they did that with the 5s. And yeah, they did. And guess what? They did it with the 12s. Get over it. But I think it looks exactly like it could have been the 12S easily.
Right. I think it's interesting.
Really.
I think it's interesting because a lot of phones nowadays, one of the big things they're trying to improve is what's called screen refresh rate. And so basically, how do I explain what a screen refresh rate is? Basically what it looks like is, say you're like on your phone and you're scrolling through an Instagram feed and you're scrolling through it really fast. How smooth that looks, it will look smoother the higher the screen refresh rate. And so oftentimes you'll have the highest, or not the highest, but a common one now in a lot of phones or high-end phones is 120 hertz refresh rate. And something that I saw in the release was that I don't know if it's all of the phones or some of the phones, but they have an adaptive refresh rate, which I think is cool. And I think is honestly the best, because if you stick at a high refresh rate, it takes a toll on your battery. So I think if when you need it, for instance, when you're gaming or something, or like, if you're scrolling really fast for some reason, or watching a movie or something, that's great to have this refresh rate. But not even a movie, but mostly like gaming and things, but having it go from, a low one to a high one, and have the phone know when you need a higher refresh rate to a low one, I think is really cool.
Yeah, that is good. So is it like almost kind of like how I could be getting this totally wrong, and I could be outing myself as a simpleton, but is it like cartoons where it's like there's a drawing and then they switch the drawing, and it's like the more drawings they have, the more seamless it looks like as the character is like running. But if you only have like 3 frames, it's like, okay, it looks
kind of,
what
it will
like?
be how smooth it will look. And my phone is really old. It's I have a Galaxy S9 current. If it's 60 hertz refresh rate, it might even be less. I think it's 60 hertz refresh rate, but it's switching from, a good example is switching from like apps and stuff, like how quickly and smooth it looks if you like swipe from the bottom of an iPhone, or press the little multi-tab button on an Android and go from, say, like YouTube to FaceTime, or I don't know. You can definitely see it there.
It's so interesting to me that it's the Android. I can't get over the fact that Android's a software. And maybe I'm just stupid. Like maybe everybody else knows that, but like people are always like, "Oh, are you an iPhone or an Android person?" So really, what the question should be is, are you an iOS or an Android person?
Yep.
Wow, that's so. Well, no wonder they sell more phones then overall. Well, they have more than one, more than one brand.
Exactly, and so actually, that kind of gets into what I want to talk about is, why are you an iPhone person and why am I an Android person?
Do you want me to answer, or
you go? You go first, and then I can go.
The ease of use for iPhones, and also the fact that it's really all marketing, I think, because like you said, like it's so easy for me to use an iPhone. And like I grew up with an iPod and like an iPod Touch, which really is the brilliant gateway for kids to an iPhone, like brilliant right. From a marketing standpoint. It's like it's the same thing without a phone. And now with FaceTime, like iPhones or iPod Touches were the same thing as an iPhone. But they don't even make the iPod Touch anymore. Like they don't have a new. I think the last time they released one, I was in high school.
Right. I bought one.
And I don't. Yeah, and I don't even think it did that well compared to like you remember the generation of iPhones that they still sell it, yes, but I mean like they don't have the last time they updated it, because it came in colors. So apparently 2019. So clearly I'm showing my lack of knowledge on iPods recently, even though I follow. Yeah, I do remember them doing a small release, and it was like, this looks absolutely the same. And you never see them highlighting it in stores. Like, when was the last time you went into an Apple store and it's like the iPod's up in like the main? Well, I guess the first question is, when was the last time you went into an Apple store? Maybe people don't go into Apple stores. I enjoy going in there and just staring at what I can't afford.
I used to do that in middle school.
Yeah, right? Like
going to the Apple store.
At least you were doing that in middle school. I'm doing that in college, and I'm still doing if I had money to buy that. I bought my phone, and then I was, didn't have money for 6 months. I will say.
Go ahead.
No,
finish your thing, because I was going to say why I have an Android.
No, that's what I want to hear that.
So I have an Android because. So my first phone was it was called the LG NV Touch, I think.
I know that one. That was a legendary phone.
It had a touch screen on the front, and then it didn't slide, but it flipped up, and then was a keyboard.
Yep.
And so that was, I don't even know if it was Android. I guess it was a really early version of Android, but that was my first phone. I also had an iPod, and I really liked. I don't know, I really liked the Android interface for some reason. Although the iPhone was very much smoother, as you said. And I really get into like mobile technology. Like mobile tech is my favorite type of stuff. So that's like wearables, so watches and fitness bands and things like that, and then especially phones, among other things. And I found that Apple was really, almost for me, was too simple. And I felt like Android, I could kind of customize my interface more on my phone. Something that I have on my phone, and I think iOS now has, is I have a calendar widget on my home screen where it just
Yes,
puts
we
my
have.
Google Calendar on, but Apple didn't have that for the longest time, where you could just have
Right.
the apps in the folders. And so I really liked that. I really liked that you could put a slideshow of pictures on. So in terms of customization, that's kind of why I went with Android to begin with. I think iPhone has definitely caught up, but I do like the fact that because I'm very much into tech and mobile tech, and I try and keep up to date with the newest technologies and stuff. I think that Androids, as I said before, do a better job of kind of integrating it first. It may not be the best, but they might be the first people to do it, and just kind of bragging rights. I like having that there. And I also like having the option of having different phones from different companies and the different companies can implement different things into the software. So like iOS 15 is coming out soon for Apple users, Android 12 is coming out. That's just kind of like the baseline for Android soon. And all of the companies like Samsung, like OnePlus, like Google can take their version of Android and then do what they want with it and add, like, obviously, like different pieces of hardware to it. And also Sony, I want to bring up, because Sony still makes phones, but people don't know that. And I was actually considering getting a Sony phone. But yeah, basically that's kind of like my bottom line, is that I like being on the cutting edge of technology, and I find that Android does a better job of integrating new things to it and being more innovative. I think
Right.
I wouldn't buy one of Samsung's foldable phones yet, although I like that they're doing that, because I think it's just cool and will push tech in a new way, in a new direction. But then the customization, and I don't know, I like being unique and having the option to have different phones versus like an iPhone, just pick the size. I feel like is what the iPhones are.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just think, again, this goes back to, I think Apple's, because they market themselves as cutting edge and customizable. It's like it's an extension of you. And it's funny because there's only 4 colors. Well, at least there's only 4 colors of the current Pro lineup. There's more colors of the regular 13, but so I guess there's more overall. But it is interesting. It really is the marketing, but I guess too, it's harder than to market Android because it's not a phone; it's a software. So like iOS 15, as cool as it's going to be, is much harder to market than the iPhone 13 is, because it's not a tangible product, right?
Right. So basically, a couple things there. One, Android usually doesn't market itself. Usually the phone companies market their own phones. Like I'm sure you've seen Samsung phone like advertisements on TV before. I feel like they're the opposite, or like the inverse of Apple, because Apple ones are always like white background and then everything else is dark, while Samsung ones are like black background, everything else is light.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen that. With the Pixel release coming next month, Google is starting to push advertisements out there. So Android itself is never usually marketed. It's usually the devices that Android will come on that's marketed. And then the second thing that I wanted to say is that it makes sense and it works for Apple that they market themselves as customizable and I forget, you said something else there.
Cutting edge.
Cutting edge, because in the US, so many people have iPhones, and I would even go as far to say that the majority of people in the US have iPhones.
Mm-hmm.
If people aren't keeping up with new technologies, and I'm not going to toot my own horn when I say that, like I have articles that I read and videos that I watch about like new technologies that could be coming to phones. If they're not doing that, and I don't think many people are doing that like I do, then the first time they hear about a new thing is going to be from Apple, because that's their ecosystem and that's where they're going to be paying attention. Like I don't know if you knew that the Nexus was the first phone to have Face ID, and I'm calling it Face ID, which is Apple's word for it. Face recognition unlock.
Yeah. Interesting. I didn't know that.
But did you know when Apple had it?
Yes.
Exactly.
100%. Yeah. Face ID, Touch ID.
Right.
Yeah, I did. But to my point that like the marketing, but again, it's hard to market a software as because I genuinely believe if you ask most people what are the top two phones, they'd say Apple and Android. And Android isn't a phone.
Android's not a phone.
It's a software.
They might say Apple and Samsung.
Maybe, yeah. That's
like
true.
Phone makers.
That's true. That's true.
Have you ever thought about? Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Did I ever think about?
Have you ever thought about going to an Android?
No.
No. Because I can say
Um,
I've thought about going to an iPhone.
Yeah.
Android's not a phone.
Yeah.
You love my Android?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I think like true, just also because like I'm very passionate about Apple products. It's like one of my hobbies to like, you know, when people are like, what are things you like? Well, it's like, well, I like Lady Gaga. I like going to movies with friends. I'm a big Apple fan, like that, like stuff like that. So like I know that sounds weird, but like if you ask me what are my interests, Apple is one of them. So I think that's why I don't consider switching, you know.
Sure.
If it was just a phone, yeah, right. Yeah, I'm corporate. Just kidding. I just found something. This is wild though. Did you know on iPhones, I had no clue that this was a thing. You can tap the back to take a screenshot. And so I had zero clue about that. The other thing that I thought was really cool was, and now I can't find it. This is brilliant. And I wish I had this at school. So if you head to settings, FaceTime eye contact, you can enable, I'm reading this, you can enable that toggle. And whenever you're making FaceTime calls, it'll make it look like you're looking directly at the camera or person on the other side of the call, even when you're looking at the screen. That is perfect. I wish I knew that back in school. It's like I'm looking right at you. No, really, I'm watching the Alejandro music video, which did happen in one class. But that's wild. Also, can we talk about, because you brought it up for a second, like the phones that we had before iPhone and Android were just like the things.
Sure.
Like I heard Envy Touch and I almost pooped myself because that was like I wanted that phone so badly, and my friend had one, but that back then touch screens were new.
Right.
And they were bad, like on any phone. Like even I remember being like, oh, well, iPhone, but like it's a touch screen. So like, yeah, it's cool, but it's really hard to like actually maneuver. And like, does it actually recognize your finger? Now, if a phone doesn't recognize your finger, it's like it goes in the garbage.
Right.
But yeah,
that's also another conversation that I've always had, at least with my siblings, because although I wasn't, a basic phone, because I did have a touchscreen on my first phone, although it still was very limited in what it can do.
Right.
I had a basic phone and my brother had a basic phone, but my sister's first phone, what was it? An iPhone. So yeah. I've always wondered, like, that's been a conversation in my house of whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, should you start with a basic phone nowadays, or do basic phones even exist and then move up to an iPhone? Or not? See, look, I'm even saying an iPhone because I'm just assuming people are going to have
that's
iPhones.
what I'm saying. They have their hands on the neck of America.
Yeah. What do you think about that, though? Like first phones being a smartphone?
I agree. I'm gonna sound like, let me go back to being old. Maybe they were right at the restaurant. I think like kids having phones as early as they do and having access to all of this like power and like the internet is knowledge, and knowledge is power, right? Like, and just like being, that sounds so, the way I just worded that is so pretentious, and I don't mean it that way, but having access to like the web is a huge place, and having access to that, and also just like the studies that people have, I can't name any myself, but like on what technology does to us and like what looking at a screen does to us. And then like seeing kids that are like 7 and have phones and legitimately have phones too. They're not just like their parents' old phone that doesn't make calls. It's like, what? I had one when I was 11 and that was, I look back and I'm like, that's too young. Maybe not. Maybe I'm old man Nick.
I agree with that though. I think having a basic phone to teach, and again, we're not parents, so what can we talk? But I feel like having a basic phone first to just teach phone responsibility and like how to safely navigate that world, I think is important before, but also like at the same time, I feel like kids are exposed to smart devices way more than we were when we were younger because they didn't exist.
Yeah.
So I think it's hard to justify giving them this brick of a phone
that we don't know.
That's not a smartphone because they've had an iPad since they were 10 months or like,
right.
So it's, I don't know. It's
an
interesting thing.
I always think it's funny when I see people like online. It's like, well, my kids have an iPad. Like they have the iPad. Like for some reason, kids always have the iPad mini. And I get like size wise, I guess maybe they can hold it better. But it's like the capabilities are no different from a regular iPad. So it's like it's not like the kids version.
It's just smaller.
Right. But it's like, oh, they can do. And there are parental restrictions which like are necessary, I think.
Do you remember Leapfrog?
Oh yes, I do. That was like a computer.
That was like a kid's, like, well, it was like a book thing, and then it was like a computer, and then they think they made like tablets for kids. But
yeah, mine was like it opened like a laptop, and it had a little screen. I think the screen was like like the calculator screens, how they don't have like it's like a green background with like black pixelated. I think mine had that, and then it had the book with it. And as you like touch, this is actually looking back, this is wild. As you touch the book pages with the stylus, it would like read which I don't know how it did that.
Right. I think really, there was probably a chip, a small little chip or thing in the book, and then when the pen touched that specific chip, it was like,
right.
That's a cow.
I remember just abusing like one word. It'd be like moo, 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 moo. Yeah.
Boy, has technology progressed.
That's really cool. I had looking back, going back to your NV Touch because I'm still just like fascinated by it. Do you remember the NV3? That was like the iPhone at the time. Everybody had that.
Potentially. Is it similar to the NV Touch?
It's exactly what you said, just it didn't have the touch screen. It had like the numbers, like it had like a regular phone keypad where it just has the numbers and it has like
I just quickly Googled it. Yeah.
Yes. That was like if you had that, people like we're like unworthy of looking at you. I did not have one, so I was one of the people looking the other way. But that was a huge deal to have that.
This was the phone that I had.
Yes. And like look how old that looks now. But that at the time, like if
we're looking at Google images of the LG NV Touch and the LG NV3.
Yes. And it's just like looking back, it's like that was what we were calling innovative. It was though. It was impressive. My mom had one and I was like, you what?
It makes me sad that LG no longer makes phones.
Yeah, it is. It's like Blockbuster.
They were like pushed out.
Yeah.
What about this? The Motorola Razr.
Yep, I remember that.
Was like the classic flip phone. And now they have an actual like touchscreen version of it.
Interesting.
I don't know if you know
that. Is it called the Razr?
It's called the Razr. It's a flip phone. It opens up. So here's a picture of it, and you can look it up on Google. So when it's closed, there's the giant camera, and it's like that's a touchscreen, and then it opens up, and it's just a giant touchscreen, like a normal smartphone.
Yeah,
which is cool. And that's what Samsung's trying to do with their Z Flip.
Want to hear what I had before my iPhone?
Sure.
I had I thought I was the coolest thing, and I was not. It was the Alias 2. So it opened like this, like a flip phone, but it also opened the other way like a book. And the buttons were still buttons. They weren't touchscreen, but they changed. Like the numbers.
I know exactly which one you're talking about. My cousin had that.
Oh, I thought I was the coolest thing.
I thought that was cool because it flipped both ways. It just like, I don't know, if you wanted to have a phone call and then.
Yeah, but if you wanted to text like a badass, no.
Yeah.
As basic as the 13 Pro is, not basic, but as like disappointing as it was, it still is a better phone at the end of the day than the 12 Pro. And Sierra Blue, the new color, is sexy. So that's my final thought.
That's funny. Yeah, so I'm in the market for a new phone. I've been waiting for a while. I'm getting an Android, yes. And we can get into the whole thing Android. Of being.
You're getting a.
Well, yeah, but I'm getting I ideally, hopefully, we'll wait to see how it comes out. But I'm getting a Pixel 6, hopefully. What?
They're on the 6.
They're on the 6. Yes.
Wow.
But yeah, I hope I'm excited for it. I mean, we could probably go into an whole episode about Android shaming. Don't Android shame your friends if they have Androids, please. Green text is not that big of a deal. There are other video chat apps if you want to FaceTime people.
I hate that that's actually a serious thing that people, because like,
it's a serious thing that not a lot of people know about because not a lot of people have Androids. But every time, the amount of groans, this is good for the end. The amount of groans that I get when I like get someone's news number, I share my number with someone new, and it's like, oh, we can't name the group chat. Oh, it's a green text. Like I get shamed all the time for having an Android.
Wow.
So in the chat and like coming after Be Kind 21, let's be kind to our Android.
To our Android users. I feel like we're talking like oh my God, this sounds like first world problems that we're talking about, like be kind to who has what, but it's true. Like
it absolutely is.
Yeah. But still, I feel bad because I jokingly said it, but like if you actually judge somebody by what phone they have, you need to take a look in the mirror.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. And I just want to be clear that I did, and I apologize, and we can keep this in the podcast if you want. I apologize if you thought that not if you thought, that sounds horrible. I apologize if I offended you because that is not my intention, and I am completely making a joke of it.
No, I know. I think it's hilarious that people make fun of it because it's like, it's a different color text because it's blue is iMessage, green is SMS, which is just normal text message. Because if someone's iMessage isn't working, you'll notice that if you text someone with an iPhone and their iMessage isn't working, it will also go green.
It'll go green, yeah.
It'll go green. So anyway, I was not offended. What?
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure that
I was not offended. I'm raising awareness for Android discrimination.
Go fund me. All right. Do we have anything else that we want to say?
I think that was it. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think I love talking about, like I said, I'm passionate about mobile tech and I'm very interested in it. And so I think this was fun to just talk about why I have an Android and why you have an iPhone and just talking about the different options. So good idea.
Thanks. I was inspired by Apple's keynote. Not really though, that it kind of sucked. Great. And with that, do you want to do our outro? I did the intro. You can do the outro if you want.
Sure. My name is Justin.
I'm Nick.
And you can reach us on Instagram and Facebook at Point of DOO Podcast. That's Point of Do Podcast, all one word, or by sending us a voice message on our website, anchor.fm/Point of Do. If you enjoy our show, give us a rating or review in the Apple Podcast Store, or share us with a friend or family member. We'd really appreciate it and are truly grateful for all of your support. As always, have a wonderful week. Thank you for listening. And until next time.
It's time to say goodbye to myself in